We've got breaking news out of college basketball where Virginia head coach Tony Bennett is retiring, effective immediately. The news comes as quite a surprise, with the Cavaliers tipping off their season in just under 3 weeks' time. Bennett has spent the past 15 seasons at Virginia, leading the school to its first national title in 2019. He's won the most games of any coach in program history and was a two-time Naismith College Coach of the Year. For more on this, let's bring in our coach, Avery Johnson, to discuss. Avery, first of all, your reaction to this, obviously a surprise to hear that this is happening.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. 20 days before their first season, first game, November 6th. Very surprised. Teams play, exhibition games. So I don't know. This just came out of nowhere. I'm just going to assume that this maybe is a personal family matter, some sort of a health situation. The guy just got an extension through 2030. He's a championship level coach, winning the championship back in 2019 when I allowed one of my players, Braxton Key, to transfer to Virginia and help them win that championship. Tony Bennett is a first-class man of high character, great family man. So again, when things like this happen and there's no explanation for it, maybe he'll explain it tomorrow, because I believe there's a press conference where he's going to speak, but I'm very surprised by this move.
Yeah, a press conference set for 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow where he will discuss it. So, Coach, as a former coach, you're getting ready for the season. Obviously, in the lead-up, you're 3 weeks out from your first game versus Campbell, which is coming up on November the 6th. What does this do to the team now? What does this do in terms of, their preparations for the coming season?
Well, it's hard, Jeremy, because a lot of the kids that signed up to play at Virginia, they signed up to play for Tony Bennett as the head coach, not the Tony Bennett that's retiring from coaches. So now you got to elevate some associate assistant coach into that position, probably temporarily. I don't think the athletic directors and presidents of the university, have plans in place for their coach to retire 20 days before the season. So I'm sure this caught them by surprise. But again, these players, these young men are very, very critical in terms of the success of their program, and they thought they were going there to play for Tony Bennett. Now, this has been a total shift. So we'll see how they respond. This team is a team that's been based on his personality of a defensive first type of a program. That's the type of environment and culture that he built. So we'll see if they're going to install somebody else that's going to keep that same system, or they're going to try to score more points. Remember last year in Dayton, this was a team that only scored 14 points in the first half before scoring a total of 42 points, losing by 25 to Colorado State. So we'll see if there's a change in terms of their approach with Tony Bennett retiring.
Again, Tony Bennett announcing his immediate retirement from the University of Virginia. No reason given, and they did not name any kind of interim at this point in time as we're talking about this right now. But, Coach, what type of a program is this in terms of this job, the appeal of this job, if they're looking at other people coming in?
Yeah, anytime you're in the ACC, this team has been pretty good overall in the regular season. Now they've struggled a little bit in the tournament because, they've lost to, I think, a couple of 13 seeds in 2 years. The championship was phenomenal, but this is a tough conference. Whenever you have Duke, North Carolina, two very, very deep and talented teams. I know Hubert Davis personally. We've worked together before, so I know what an amazing job, he does overall at North Carolina. So they're going to be a middle-of-the-pack team. We'll see what happens. Louisville has a new coach in place. So with Clemson, we'll see what kind of move they make. But this is going to be a tough uphill climb for them without Tony Bennett in the head coaching chair.
Let's bring in the host of the Ion College Basketball Podcast, our college basketball insider, Matt Norlander, who joins us from Durham, North Carolina, where he's attending Duke practice today. Matt, I'll start just by getting your thoughts on this. How surprised are you, and how surprised is the college basketball world to hear this news?
This is a stunner. I mean, it really is. the fact that we've now reached less than 3 weeks to the start of the season. Tony Bennett attended ACC Media Day just last week. In fact, amid all this news, I just want to start by saying, I genuinely hope Tony Bennett and his family are doing well, and this has nothing to do with a health-related reason, because obviously this timing is very unconventional. This is a big one. We're talking about a guy who's considered among the very best coaches in all of men's college basketball, who has taken Virginia to just absurd heights and built up an incredible reputation for not just who he is as a coach, but who he is as a human being. And what we have here is, in my opinion, one of the more stunning headlines in college hoops that we've seen basically since the last time we got a stunning headline of this nature, when it was Jay Wright that was retiring from Villanova. But keep in mind, the Jay Wright retirement, that was just a few weeks removed from making the Final Four. Tony Bennett here has gone through an offseason, has done the portal, has gone through the preseason work, and for whatever reason that he is yet to disclose, on the precipice of the season starting, now we are looking at a situation where Virginia will have an interim head coach, and the program now will take a drastic new direction without, in my opinion, one of the 5 to 10 best coaches in the game.
Matt, what are you hearing in terms of possible candidates for an interim position here?
Well, we wait word, and Virginia has put out an official notice, not just of Tony Bennett's retirement, but also notice that there's going to be a press conference on Friday morning, and it has yet to specifically identify who will be the interim coach. I can all but guarantee you that decision has been made privately already. I would think it will be Ron Sanchez, who previously was a long-term assistant under Bennett before he took a job as a head coach at Charlotte. Sanchez doubled back and returned to Charlottesville before last season. So he's a man that has Bennett's trust, as a longtime confidant there, and a very capable coach. So my expectation would be that Ron Sanchez will ultimately be tagged with the interim head coach title.
Matt, where does he leave this program, Tony Bennett, in terms of where it's at and moving forward?
Well, he leaves it in an interesting spot because, as coincidence would have it, earlier on Thursday, we released my preseason list of the top 101 teams. And frankly, I put Virginia inside that top 35 based on my belief in Tony Bennett and his coaching ability and his IQ in hoops, and getting that program to be a top 4, top 5 level ACC program yet again, which is what he has done time and time and time again, just as consistent as pretty much any program in the ACC over the past decade. So he's leaving it at a point where there is some uncertainty moving forward. I mean, when you don't have Tony Bennett there, he's the best coach in the history of the program. He might push back on that, but really the fact that he guided them to a national championship and for so many years has been able to keep Virginia relevant, to me, it leaves him in an interesting spot. And if I may, I've actually talked with Tony Bennett about retirement multiple times, and we even spoke effectively on background back in April on this topic, because he was a candidate of some rumors and wondering behind the scenes, this past season, as Virginia just wasn't operating at the highest level. And, I know Tony, like a lot of other coaches, didn't love and doesn't love the current status of the sport as it relates to NIL and how that conflates with the portal, and how that's made a much tougher job on a lot of coaches. He's in his mid-50s. But at the time, he told me, I'm going to keep doing this until I feel I can't do it effectively, and I can't be doing it for my players and giving them the kind of energy and attention that I know that I can do. And so clearly, at some point between when we had that conversation in April in the midst of going through the portal, and now Tony has changed his mind and decided to change course, and in the process opened up a job that's a pretty plum job. Virginia within the file of the ACC, obviously, and then obviously nationally is a pretty good job. And for him to step away now, it is obviously the latest example of a very high-profile national championship-winning coach deciding to retire theoretically ahead of the pace. And Jeremy, I'll hammer this home, because even well before the Tony Bennett news here on Thursday, this has been told to me by coaches across the sport for over a year now, basically dating back to the Jay Wright retirement. And that is, you are going to see, because of the amount of money that head coaches can make now, and because of the different rigors of the job and what the job is now versus what the job was when these guys got into this industry 20, 30 years ago, you are going to see more and more coaches just opt to retire early. I mean, I'm here at Duke practice. Jon Scheyer is only in year 3, but maybe Jon Scheyer will ultimately have different intentions. But if you told me that Jon Scheyer didn't take the Mike Krzyzewski route and ultimately only decided to be a head coach for, say, 20 years and decide that's going to be the route that I'm going to take, I think that's going to be much more likely across the board, no matter the school, whether it's Virginia or it's Duke or it's UCLA, you name the school. We're just not going to see coaches, I think, be willing to endure this profession into their 60s because it takes so much out of you and because it is a near 365 a year kind of job. So Tony Bennett is the latest, but he will absolutely not be the last in terms of high-profile coaches that opt to step away well in advance of their expiration date, if you will.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Matt, the college sports landscape is certainly changing. His dad was a head coach. You know, he's a head coach. If this is the last we see of Tony Bennett in college basketball, how would you describe the Bennett family legacy?
You know, I appreciate you bringing that up, Jeremy, because I sat with Dick Bennett back in Chicago in 2016, I want to say it was, when Virginia was in the tournament. And Dick Bennett has such a tremendous reputation as well. And Tony Bennett was initially never even going to be a basketball coach. That was not his intention. He got into the business almost not accidentally, but he didn't realize how much he liked it once he got into it. And I remember Dick Bennett telling me about how much just utter pride and confidence he had in his son because he was able to coach basketball and connect to players in a different way than he did. And some of it was the same way, but just utter passion, devotion, and you really have one of the best father-son combinations from a coaching perspective in the college realm, and certainly in college basketball that we've ever seen there. And I know just how close Tony is to his father, and really these, you know, this, I'm kind of paraphrasing things Tony's told me over the years, but what he has done as a coach and how he grew up as a man, he owes so much of that to his parents specifically. And he was able to carve out his own reputation and identity, removed from the shadow of his father, who had tremendous success over the years. And to do that is no small feat. He is a downright icon and forever will be in the history of that program and obviously in Charlottesville.
Let's leave it there. Our college basketball analyst Matt Norlander joining us to discuss the breaking news. Tony Bennett, head coach of Virginia, stepping down effective immediately and entering retirement. Matt, thanks for hopping on with us. He's in Durham, North Carolina, taking a look at Duke practice as they get ready for the season. But obviously this is news that is shaking the college football, or the college basketball, world today. And speaking of college basketball, getting caught up as the season approaches, head over to the Eye on College Basketball podcast with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. You can download and follow wherever you get your pods or scan that QR code to listen to the latest episode right now.